certified professional facilitator from the IAF, which stands for International Association of Facilitators. Since 2018, I've started a book series on architecting collaboration, and my latest book, in co-authorship with other renowned digital facilitators and guest co-authors, is titled Beyond Virtual Meetings. It's all about the importance of the digital tools that can extend and augment the power of you as a facilitator and a meeting host in a virtual online meeting, but also on the hybrid meetings that are going to be so much needed in this post-pandemic era.
Along with my co-author Martin Duffy and esteemed PhD colleague, we host Talk to Your Meeting Daughter, a series of hosted conversations with meeting experts that can advise you about how to transition to this new normal and take advantage of this incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make the organization of your meetings more sustainable. Please stand by as the next show will start momentarily.
We're actually pushing the edge of the envelope, as we say in the aviation business. It's probably an opportune time, Paul, as you interject, for me to try to do a very quick summary of some of the key points that we discussed. We started our discussion in a slightly unusual place, talking about music, which we hadn't planned, but actually, in the context of meetings, one point that came out, Julie, you shared your experience of having used music in a meeting setting, and the purpose, as you described it, was to build shared connection, shared links, which we'll come to a little bit later. But that idea of building a common baseline that then enables people to bring their diversity and their different opinions to a common base point or to a common starting point. We expanded that idea into ensuring that the meeting that we're attending has shared purpose, so that we have a common understanding of why are we actually here. When we started talking about that, Paul, you introduced the idea of, but what about people who are told to go to the meeting? And we often encounter that. But Martin, you brought in the concept of, well, while music could be used, we talked about that previously, we also then started to discuss the idea of people sharing a little bit of themselves so that we build a common understanding of where the different participants in the meeting are coming from. So rather than just accepting that somebody is forced to come along to a meeting, if the meeting is handled sensitively, let's say, and empathically, we have a much better chance of drawing out of the participants from the outset. Why are they here? What is it that they hope to take away? What is it that they may be able to contribute? By establishing this baseline, we then build a really strong platform on which diversity of perspectives and backgrounds can now be levered to be brought into the conversation. It was at that point in our conversation, Julie, where you introduced two really interesting concepts. So the individual forces that are present, and that's, Martin, you characterize that as there's a kind of a feel or there's a vibe that you get from the group. So managing those individual forces in combination with, Julie, what you talked about as the invisible links. So drawing out of the group, what are the common points of connection? Both of those perhaps become part of what is the underlying culture that the organization has set for its meetings to take place. Martin, you then made a point about understanding the status of the team or group that we're working with is obviously critically important. So if the group knows each other and meets frequently, that might need to be handled quite differently to if it's a completely new group, depending on what our purpose is. may end up requiring different tools and techniques. But I think all of us agreed that having the shared common purpose, having an empathic feel for interacting with the people. So now we talked about there are humans, not machines. And if I could wrap it all up, Martin, going back to a key point I think that you made, which is we want to try and work with people where they currently are, rather than working with people where we think they should be or where we want them to be. So by working and focusing on that aspect, work with where they are rather than where we are trying to get them, we have a much better chance of being able to foster and get the maximum benefit from diverse perspectives and opinions that are going to be present probably in every workshop or meeting that we actually attend. I'll leave it at that, Paul.
When I just started in '92, and then I ran into MPI and I did a couple of workshops in an Amsterdam European conference of them. And I said, okay, let's do something, guys. I want to become active. Let's change the tables a little bit. We pushed them aside and then we rearranged the chairs. They were totally flabbergasted. Like, what do you want to do? You want to change the room here? Why? So there was a total earthquake there, and that's not the case anymore. People started in the mainstream. People will have started to think about, all right, we can influence. There's not only the classroom typical setup that's going to work. We can do different things. So there is change, yes. However, of course, very slow, very slow.
Then into, well, what particular types of meetings lend themselves to the type of design thinking that you have in mind?
Well, the best meeting is the meeting that normally sucks. The meeting that just is boring, that doesn't work, that doesn't deliver, that costs a lot of money, and that just doesn't do any more than transferring a bit of information, giving people a cup of coffee or a drink or both, and then send them away with a lot of ideas or a lot of information in their head, and that's it.
Yeah.
Here with 3 or 4 board members about the upcoming annual management meeting. 500 people travel worldwide cost loads of money. Now, then I'm asking these guys, how many meetings do you do on an annual basis? What is the sort of average time consuming factor of your employees? Okay, they do about 30% of all their work is meetings. Okay, now what is the annual or the hourly rate of your employees? Yeah. Now, do the hours that your people spend time the hourly rate, and then do your math. And then there's a huge number coming out always. Then you ask, okay, now who in the board is responsible for this investment? Then there's a silence. Nobody is.
But is there still resistance to that change in how the meetings are conducted and so on?
Oh yeah. Oh. And that's an interesting field to explore, because much of the resistance is not participants, not at all. I mean, I can tell you for ages about the totally crazy things that we have had people do. And just if you have a good idea and you have a strong facilitator, you can do practically anything with people. So that's never the point. The resistance comes from the highest level always. They are scared. They have not the imagination of what's going to happen if you let go. If you have a group of 3,000 people going crazy and starting to yell out ideas, even mother management people think, yeah, that's going to be a mess. And my responsibility is to avoid a mess. That is what I do. I'm in control, and then I'm not in control. So better not. So that is the resistance. So it's a question of inserting imagination in the world of management as well.